Welcome to Let's Be Honest. I'm Liana Ross, and I'm a licensed mental health counselor. I'm the assistant director of Gooding Wellness Group, and I'm on a mission to answer your real and honest questions, unfiltered, while also giving you the real and honest opinions of a mental health clinician on pop culture and trending topics. Stay tuned. Welcome back to another episode of Let's Be Honest podcast. I'm Liana, and I'm a licensed mental health counselor. Today's episode is based on pop culture, a really important pop culture topic that I've been really excited to talk about ever since it kind of blew up. And so we're talking about the one and only Kanye West, or Ye. I don't even know what his name is at this point. And how he was open in the past about his bipolar diagnoses, which is great that he was so open about it, as well as his decision to go off his medication, which we're going to get into about why this was a little complicated. And we're going to talk about the implications of this, which we've seen among both of our practices, and comparing it to other celebrities like Kid Cudi, Kendrick Lamar, and a lot of others who have been open about their mental health. So who am I going to be chatting with today? I'm here with Allie Joy. She is a licensed professional counselor and registered art therapist. She owns her own private practice located in Connecticut, and she's also the co-host of Am I a Bad Therapist podcast. Welcome, Allie.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for being here. I'm really excited to get into this. And you were sharing with me a little bit about your own experiences with clients questioning their own decision to be on medication after Kanye talked about this. So would you like to share a little bit to start us off about what your thoughts were happening around this with Kanye?
Of course. I feel like it's challenging. I can't even, at first I would like to say, I can't even imagine what it's like to be a celebrity, not having any privacy, having all of your business out there. So I know their lives aren't easy in those aspects, but sometimes I wonder if they realize the impact that they do have on people's decision making and things like that. So a few years ago when his Ye album came out, there's specifically one of his songs that's talking about his bipolar, but then talking about how he went off his meds. And he's had many quotes over the years talking about how he can't be creative when he's on his meds, sometimes pretty much saying fuck meds, things like that. And I have had clients bring this up to me. So one that stood out the most was, again, a few years ago when the album came out, I had a teenager, a male that I was working with, and he had quite a range of diagnoses. There was a little bit of concerns about some potential psychosis, lots of depression, some aggression, violence, and things like that. And he was on medication. And then he came in one week and said, I stopped taking my meds. And I was like, oh my gosh, whoa, what made you make that decision? What's going on? Because not only, of course, are they there to help, but going off them just randomly can be really bad for us. And he told me, he's like, well, I was listening to that Ye album and listening to Kanye West and going down these rabbit holes on YouTube and Reddit. And he said that he doesn't believe in taking meds anymore. And I don't either. And I was a little bit dumbfounded almost, oh my gosh, is this really happening in my office? Because I feel like we hear about these things, or you kind of think again how celebrities can impact people and their choices. But when it happened in my office with one of my own clients, I was really oh my gosh, I didn't think it would get this close and this personal.
Yeah, wow. I can't even imagine having that come in, but of course he had that idea, right?
Right.
You listen to a whole album and especially the trust that we put into these celebrities. Hey, I like Kanye's music. I think he's a mastermind. I think he is so smart and has done so many awesome things. But when it comes to this, I love what you said about, I can imagine what it's like to struggle with mental health in such a lens of being this huge figure, right? It's already hard enough to struggle with mental health. Now you add on the stress of being a celebrity, which will, I can't even imagine what that's like. But so many people listen to him, just like this client of yours who obviously looked up to him. And yeah, we know that getting off medication, it's a process. It is something that's talked about for a while. And if we feel like it's a good idea, you work with your psychiatrist to get, it's a process. And so I can imagine for you having a client in just deciding to go off one day is like, oh boy, where do we go from here?
Exactly. And I've had other clients kind of come in, and if we are like, because I don't push meds on anybody because I'm a therapist. So I say we can absolutely move forward with the tools that we have and work together. But there are some instances where I think it could benefit you to talk to a psychiatrist. But I always leave it up to the clients. But I have had many, many clients over the years be very hesitant to even consider medication or talking to a provider. And again, if that's someone's beliefs, I'm not going to push them against that. But when I hear them say, like, oh, I've seen so many shows, or like, on Keeping Up with the Kardashians or with Kanye or with certain artists or people in the like the public lens, and that's the reason why they don't want to do it. I'm like, let's explore that a little further because, a lot of what happens, I feel like, in their lives and celebrities' lives is so taken out of context. Like we're getting the teeny tiniest little peek into what is going on. They also have resources that normal people do not have. So I try to really dive into it and explore it with the clients of what their hesitation is, what their fears are, really kind of like explaining again, like their lives are very different from ours and helping them try to make a more informed decision. But it really is challenging, I think, as a mental health professional when we have clients like citing these sources of celebrities and their comments, and potentially holding them back from progress and treatment.
Yeah, and it also makes me think about like it makes me wonder about the client support system, right?
Mhm.
Or like who they have in their life that they can get credible information from, because it doesn't sound like many if we're kind of searching to these celebrities or big names and big faces.
Mhm.
And yeah, like you said about the Kardashians, I did an episode about Khloe Kardashian and her implications about OCD and what that can do to maybe our own perspectives around OCD, right? I mean,
Mhm.
whether it's true or not. And we have to kind of go into this world of navigating these things with celebrities with like a fine-tooth comb.
Mhm.
And thankfully this client or just any client has a therapist to kind of talk about it with, because it's so easy to get wrapped up into like what Kanye said. I mean, we see someone who's so successful, right? And we have many goals, probably like him as well. And so if I want to get to a point like him, well, I'm going to listen to him. And that
Right.
can bring a lot of issues, right? And they also overshadow all the celebrities that are like pro therapy and
Mhm.
pro listening to your doctors and mental health.
Right. Well, of course, because too, I think the media plays a part in it too. Because when someone's having a very public struggle with mental health, and especially recently with Kanye, that's going to be in the headlines. That's going to be trending. That's going to be on TikTok. That's going to be on Instagram. And while the other people putting out more positive messages about mental health, of course, they're there. They have their own platforms. But that struggle is clickbait. Like it is, again, like headline worthy. So we're probably more likely to see that over, again, like some of the celebrities or influencers or bigger names that share more positive aspects of mental health too.
Right. We're not going to be paying attention to like the headlines that say this person went into treatment and is doing well. Like,
Right.
I don't
Exactly.
even know if we see them. I mean, but one really interesting instance was I was watching on Netflix David Letterman's special.
Mhm.
And it was when it's pretty recent. He had a lot of good guests on talking about their own experiences, a lot of celebrities. And he had Kanye on around the same time that this was all kind of happening.
Mhm.
And he probes Kanye about his mental health and about his decision to go off his medication and be so vocal about it. And Kanye, of course, continued with that same narrative of like why he doesn't feel like he needs it and how it impacts his ability to be creative. And I remember David Letterman had such amazing feedback. Like, I can't remember it exactly, but one thing I do remember is that he opened up in that moment about his own struggles with mental health and how he decided to go on medication for his anger and his anxiety. And I'm like, that's the type of voice we need. Like, we
Yeah.
need these big celebrities to say, and we do have them here and there to say, like, yeah, me too, right? Like, I believe it was Harry Styles who did he cancel a concert recently for his mental
Yes.
health?
Mhm.
Yeah, like of course no one likes a canceled concert,
Right.
but I love that he was able to listen to what he needs and attend to that.
Yes. Or even like Simone Biles when she was in the Olympics and she had to take a step back because of her mental health. And I remember the like backlash against her was so horrible to see where people were like, oh my gosh, suck it up. Like you're an
Mm,
Olympic athlete and all of these things. And she stood really firm to, I know myself and my mental health. It's dangerous to my performance as an athlete. I'm not going to hurt myself because you want me to suck it up. So it is amazing. And that does still make headlines, of course, where you're seeing like with Harry or in that situation where they're really advocating for their own mental health. But then it's hard to see the backlash they get. Again, I can't imagine what that's like for them. I hope they just tune it out, but having to have people attacking you for protecting your own mental health.
yeah, I remember that too. And I mean, that was, I perceive it as like so brave,
Hmm.
despite knowing what people are going to say. And I also know people that were pro Kanye's decision, right? Like
Right.
we're going to have both of these voices. So I couldn't imagine what it's like to
Mhm.
be in that role. Um, it's just so hard to navigate through. And then we have the people on the other end of the spectrum, like we are talking about, who are open about their mental health in a positive way. Like the documentary about Kid Cudi that I
Mhm.
watched, it was semi recently, and it was so amazing. It was on Netflix, I think, and he opened up about his struggles with addiction and mental health and his attempts at treatment, and it was just like really nice to see that he's a person like we all are, right?
Mhm.
Like they are people like we are. And it's just so interesting as we compare Kanye and his narrative to someone like Kid Cudi or Simone Biles or Harry Styles and their
Mhm.
narrative.
Hi, my name is Gordon Gooding. I'm the founder and director of the Gooding Wellness Group here in Cold Spring Harbor, New York. We are a group of mental health providers that offer individual and family counseling here on Long Island. We believe the first step for caring for your mental health is to talk and to learn about it, which is what this podcast does such a great job of. If it has a name, someone else has been through it, and so can you. If you ever need a professional that cares about what you are facing, please feel free to reach out to us. Our counseling services are available throughout New York State through our teletherapy service, and we also offer in-person sessions in our beautiful offices here on Long Island, New York. You can reach us at goodingwellness.com or by calling 631-351-2940. Remember, there's nothing that you need to face alone. Until then, keep listening, be deliberate with your mental health, and keep it honest.
Yeah. And I compare it a lot now recently to Kendrick Lamar because his most recent album that just came out this year is pretty much his journey through therapy and his mental health and his like processing it. And that album is very intense. Like there are some songs that are like so emotional to listen to, but he really talked about how being a celebrity really impacted his mental health, how he dealt with it, how it impacted his relationships and
Mhm.
processing it, and really being that voice for like, it doesn't matter who you are, celebrity or not, you have to work through these issues. He talked a lot about like from his own perspective of his own culture, like how often therapy can be like looked down upon and how he dealt with that. And it's amazing to see like Kendrick is highlighted as one of like the most talented, like inspirational rappers around. So there's no excuse for Kanye. And again, I don't think he should, it's not like I'm saying he has to be on medication. It's not what I'm saying. I'm more so just saying he needs to be aware of the message he's sending. If he said, I chose to go off my meds, but everyone has to figure out what works for themselves or something like that, that's a different message than saying, fuck meds. I can't be creative. You can't be creative. Don't attack, like all of these things that he's saying. It's not with that
Yes.
like extra piece of like, but do what works for you.
And it's so crazy how like that one sentence, do what
Yeah.
works for you, plays such a big role. But instead he's saying this blanket statement where it's like, well, you can't be creative on medication. And it's
Mhm.
like, we both know that that's not accurate. Like that's, I mean, we also know that so many people react differently. You
Mhm.
cannot generalize someone's experience. It's just so harmful to share
Mhm.
that to the world. And it
Yes.
also explains like some of his behavior, right? Like
Mhm.
some of his erratic behavior. Well, that's unfortunately what happens when we're not properly medicated or
Mhm.
doing treatment. So
Yeah. I agree. Yeah, it was interesting. I saw a quote and I sent it to you from when all the stuff happened with his divorce from Kim, and then she started seeing Pete Davidson, and Kanye made that video. It was like a claymation that looked like he was like, I think it was like burying and like trigger warning, but like decapitating like a claymation figure of Pete Davidson. It was this whole big thing, and it was really violent. Like it was very aggressive. And people were saying to him like, this isn't okay. And he came back and said, and I'm going to read the quote. He said, art is therapy, just like this view. Art is protected as freedom of speech. Art inspires and simplifies the world. Art is not a proxy for any ill or harm. Any suggestion otherwise about my art is false and malintended. And from a lens of, I'm a registered art therapist, this comment really stuck out to me because while some of the things he's saying is true, like, yes, art is a form of expression, art has like it shouldn't be censored and all of these things. But when you are essentially almost like threatening somebody or encouraging violence to other people, that's a line that it doesn't matter that it's art that can't be crossed. And it's like art is very therapeutic. So I'm an art therapist. But again, maybe if you think about it, like that could be something he could have processed through actual art therapy or with a provider or things like that, instead of putting it out in a video that gets millions and millions of views and headlines and all of these things, and kind of saying to people like, yeah, it's okay to put out these images of violence towards another person.
I completely agree. And it's also like saying that, oh, well, just because it's art, it's okay.
Exactly.
Right?
And
Like,
that's not okay.
no, it's like, okay, so we'll just excuse all of your behavior.
Right.
And like, again, if that was happening to someone who was not famous or whatever it is, like, I could imagine that's like cyberbullying. Like, that's really messed up.
Yeah, there
And
could be legal consequences to putting something like that out there. It could be considered like a real threat.
definitely, and it's just like, I'm sorry, grow up. Like
Yeah.
you said, go to therapy and deal
Yes.
with those feelings. Like instead of spending your time doing this. And I think also when oh my God, Pete and Kim broke up, he put out something about like someone, I guess like the message was that like Pete died, or it was something like really messed up. Just
Mhm.
like, don't say that. And he actually removed it because he got so much hate.
Mhm.
And this is the behavior when we can't manage our emotions, when we
Mhm.
can't even pause and think like, is this a good idea? Like I can have my emotions, but maybe this isn't the right outlet. And again, like I'm not surprised, granted he's not getting the right treatment.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's so tough because again, I don't want people to feel censored, right? Like there is freedom of speech and those things, but again, I think when you have such a humongous, large platform, you have to have an awareness of how your words impact others, and again, how it could be harmful to others. So again, like yes, I think people deserve freedom of speech, but at the same time, I think that they should be aware of those consequences to what they're saying. Or again, say what you want about yourself, but put it out there of like, again, pursue your own, whether it's like research, talk to your own therapist, consider things for yourself. If he said that, I wouldn't be as concerned. Obviously, I'm still concerned about the things he's saying, but not as much about the impact for others. Because again, he has his own right to not take his medications, to go into a downward spiral. But when you're impacting others, that's when it's like, hello, please just be aware of what you're saying.
Right, exactly. So aside from this, what do you feel like for listeners are some red flags when it comes to like, I guess, following a celebrity who they can relate to, whether it be Kendrick Lamar, Kanye, Kid Cudi, and relate to in regards to mental health? Like what would you feel like are some things to look out for?
Yes. Well, I think that when you follow influencers or celebrities and they're promoting a product, be careful. That's a red flag for me because we know they're getting paid to promote it. So if it's the tea, that makes them
Hmm.
skinny, or if it's this or that, or it's like really keeping that mindful eye of like, again, they're being paid to promote these things. So we can't necessarily think that it's going to be good for us. So I would say be careful of what they're posting. If it's like in regards to products or services, or again, like something to take, especially like most of those things are not FDA approved.
Right. Agreed.
I would also say of like, if it's around, I talk a lot about this with my clients about like appearances of like, oh, they look so skinny. They look like this. They talk about their body image, things like that. Especially on social media, we know things are photoshopped. We know that there's filters. The Instagram filters these days, like they make your face look so different and it's so realistic. So when you're being
Yeah.
hard on yourself, like I don't look that good, that makes me feel like crap about myself. I would really encourage people to just look at the people you're following and look at how it makes you feel. If you're going through your feed and you're like feeling worse and worse about yourself because you don't look like the people that you're following, again, maybe consider who you're following and unfollow them, but also remind yourself that everything on social media is curated, it's filtered, it's the best versions.
Yep.
And so when you're feeling like crap, I think that's the time to reevaluate your social media.
Agreed. And that's something I do suggest to so many of my clients. It can
Mhm.
even be about like different issues because
Yes.
I also know like I had to do that. I was following
Yeah.
people like years ago,
Mhm.
like all these fitness influencers, but it was just like, how am I feeling as I come away from it? Instead,
Mhm.
now I follow such a wide range of people and I don't leave social media feeling like shit about myself. And
Yes.
that's how I know that I made the right decision, that it doesn't
Mhm.
have to be that way.
100%. Yeah, I like to call it with my clients, we call it like a social media audit, where I have them like open up their apps and like go through like their feed and talk about like, I kind of have like three categories. I'm like, okay, think about the people like in your real life. Like, are you following that person from high school because you feel obligated to, but you don't actually care? There's
Yep.
no obligation. Unfollow them if it doesn't bring you any joy or good feelings. And then the second category is again like influencers, celebrities, things like that. Are these people who are making you feel better or inspired, or is it making you feel worse? And then I say we need to add in the third category of the things that make you happy. So is that like cute animal videos? Put more of those in your life. Inspirational quote accounts, and just different, or like if you enjoy traveling or photography or art, like trying to
Hmm.
intentionally utilize your social media to make you feel better and adding in that extra category again instead of like, and it's amazing how many times I talk about this with clients and they're like, oh my gosh, I never thought of this. Because it's just normal to follow celebrities and influencers and the people from high school and whoever. It's like, no, you have control over your social media. You can follow and unfollow whoever you want. You don't have to do anything you don't want to. So don't.
Yes. And I tell clients like I love Real Housewives, I
Mhm.
like the Kardashians, but I actually don't follow any of them. And it's
Yes,
because
definitely.
just I know I'm not going to feel good
Mhm.
after I follow them. Right?
Yes.
And we can make those conscious decisions just like if Kanye says something that doesn't vibe with me, I can unfollow him. Doesn't mean I'm
Mhm.
not a fan of him because I am, but I just know that having that reminder is not beneficial.
Mhm.
And then, like you said, replacing that with other accounts and other people that do provide me joy. So
Mhm.
I love that you kind of also do that exercise with your clients.
Yes, it's a good one. I love, and I do it for myself regularly. Like every couple of months, I'll go through and like see who I'm following and remove some accounts. Like if I followed them for something or I thought I would like it and I don't. So I do my own audits regularly because somehow I feel like accounts just trickle in. And I'm like, why am I doing,
Yes.
like, why am I following this? So it's good to like regularly check back into what you're seeing or try to like rework your algorithm a little bit if certain things are showing more. You can like go search more things and then we know it'll pop up. Like I swear on TikTok, I swear you can like think something and it will pop up. But
I
like,
know. Oh my God, don't get me started. It's
so just
creepy.
I think just being more intentional with our social media and reminding ourselves that we do have some control over it.
Yes. Yes, we do. I know. Go look for those puppy videos and get
Yes,
away from the harmful messaging.
absolutely.
So this was an amazing conversation. I'm so glad that we were able to talk about this. It's something I know I've been wanting to talk about for a long time.
Mhm.
Can you share a little bit more for the listeners about yourself, the podcast, your practice, your art therapy?
Yeah, of course. So I do have my own private practice. I work for myself now, and I work mostly with college students. They are my favorite age because I feel like college students are old enough and like have autonomy to make their own decisions, but they're not super set in their ways, like stubbornness. So I feel
So
like we
true.
make so much amazing progress. They're really motivated. So I do have, other ages, but that's the bulk of my caseload, and I love it so much. And I utilize a mix of like talk therapy and art therapy and things like that. For anyone who is a therapist, I also have a business. It's called Creative Clinical Consultation and Supervision, where I help clinicians incorporate creativity into their clinical practice in like an ethical and fun way to talk about doing things a little outside of the box, because I think clients now present so differently than maybe in the past they might have. And I think having a little bit more of a creative or an alternative approach can be super beneficial. So I love talking about that. And then, of course, like you said, I have a podcast with Catherine. It's called Am I a Bad Therapist? And it's all about just normalizing our existence like as human therapists, because we all make mistakes. We have made plenty of them in our careers, but I feel like in our field, we're already isolated by the work we do because it's so confidential. But then I feel like with our mistakes, it almost feels like we have to hide them and we don't talk about them. And Catherine and I kind of wanted to like break open that door and just normalize that it's okay that we make mistakes. So we just have people share stories. Liana, you shared one of your bad therapist moments.
Yes.
And just bring some lightness and humor to it. So that's kind of like in general my vibe. Like I love talking about just us having grace with ourselves as people, as providers in our jobs. My last name works out well because I talk a lot about bringing joy into our lives. And most of my handles are the joy of therapy, because that's what I love to talk about too. And just all those good things.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I know the podcast has been awesome. I forgot how I found it, but it's been so cool. And then I was able to be a guest on it. So go check it out. And thank you so much again for coming on the pod. And it's been so much fun. And remember, guys, to go follow Allie, and remember to submit your question or requested topic to letsbehonest@goodingwellness.com. Follow the podcast on Instagram at Let's Be Honest Pod. You can rate, review, and follow the podcast. Share it with a friend. And follow me on Instagram, Liana Ross LMHC. And if you're interested in therapy, head to goodingwellness.com or DM me. I can help you find the right provider. And until next time, thanks for listening.